Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I have a week of really easy meals. We kind of had a crazy week, but I decided I would just share with you what it is we were eating because I know we all have crazy weeks. So even if I've got some maybe new recipes for you, but some of it may seem a little bit repetitive, but that's kind of real life. So sometimes you just need those reminders of those quick and easy meals to have when you're having a crazy week. So let's get into this week of meals. Okay, so for this first one, I was just kind of using up, I don't know, I didn't know what to do for dinner this week. And I was using up stuff that I needed to use. So I've got these little yellow potatoes, and I'm just cutting them up into small pieces. I'm not following a recipe for this, but we're going to make a ham and potato casserole, ham, potato, broccoli casserole. So I'm just cutting off any spots that didn't look good to me. I washed these. And then we're just going to cut them up into small pieces. The smaller they are, I figured the faster they would cook, although this still took longer than I thought it was going to, but that's okay. I was kind of in a rush this night and underestimated how long it would take to cook. So I'm just dumping in a bag of frozen broccoli, broke up the pieces best I could, and then we are going to season the vegetables here with some salt, some garlic powder, and I believe some onion powder. And then we are just going to give this all a toss together. I love sharing recipes with you, and sometimes I like to go and do a little bit more in depth, but I just have not had time for this, for that this week or the last couple weeks. So I'm going to just, when I am sharing recipes with you, probably a lot of them are going to be just super easy. I mean, all my recipes I share are pretty easy, but I'm going a little bit easier lately. So now I'm just cutting up some of this pre-sliced, pre-cooked ham. This is from Aldi. It's this one in particular is there never any. You can use whatever you want. You can use leftover ham. I buy this and split the packages in half and then freeze it. So I pulled this out of the freezer and it was still pretty frozen. So I'm chopping it up and then trying to break it up a little bit as I toss it around in the casserole. And I ended up doing the whole package here. And then I am going to make a little sauce here. So I have about my voice just squeaked. I haven't talked a lot yet today. It's not early, but I haven't actually talked a lot yet today. Anyways, I melted about 4 tablespoons of butter, and then we're going to add in about 4 tablespoons of flour, a little bit at a time, whisking that together. We're making a roux. You probably know what that deal is there. And once I felt like I had enough, but you want to do about equal parts butter to flour. So let that cook down for a minute, and then we're going to add in some milk, and I am using almond milk just because that's what we have, and I probably added in about a cup to a cup and a half of it, but I'm adding probably about a cup. I'm adding in just a little bit at a time, mixing it around, letting that heat up, and then I'm just seasoning that with a little bit of salt. And then we're going back over to the casserole, and I'm going to top with about, I don't know, maybe a cup and a half of some shredded sharp cheddar cheese. And then we're going to pour over that little roux creamy mixture on top just to give a little bit of liquid and some substance to this casserole. And yeah, pour that over, spread that out best I can. And then I'm just taking some crackers. These are like the Clubhouse style crackers, but I'm just crumbling up with my hands, sprinkling those on top. You could also do breadcrumbs. I just was kind of reaching for stuff. I don't normally do crackers on top of stuff, but I did, and it was really good. So I just did, I don't know, a handful of crackers, however many were left in that package. And then I'm going to put this in the oven at 350. I started out for 30 minutes, and that was not done. So here I am setting the timer again, basically until your potatoes are cooked, and I did that for another 20 minutes. So that was the end result. And then we ate so late. I was running so behind. I forgot to show you the finished casserole until after we had served ourselves. But there it was, and it was good. Okay, moving on. I've got some sweet potatoes. I'm just cutting off some yucky spots, and then I'm just kind of stabbing it with a knife to pierce it, and I'm laying that on a baking sheet that is lined with foil, and also I did spray that down and grease that with some cooking spray. And then I'm just drizzling on a little bit of olive oil and rubbing that around all over these sweet potatoes. I was going to say baked potatoes. I guess they are going to be baked potatoes, but they are sweet potatoes. I'm also sprinkling on just a little bit of salt all the way around them. It's not necessary, neither is the oil, but I did it. Then we're going to put these in the oven at 425, and we're going to start off for 30 minutes. While that is going, we are going to make some meatloaf. So I'm not following a recipe here. I have done a few different fun variations of meatloaf, and my husband just prefers, he's like, I just prefer the regular stuff that you make. So I was like, all right, let me do that. But then I could not find the recipe that I normally follow, so I kind of was winging it. So I have a pound of ground beef. I have some panko breadcrumbs, or maybe they weren't panko. I think they're just breadcrumbs. Anyways, and then I had some minced onion, some Italian seasoning. I was just using what was left in the containers, so maybe about a tablespoon. And then I added in a little bit of onion powder and some salt and 1 egg. I like to mix up my meatloaf, or any meat really, with gloves on. I just don't like getting all of this in my fingernails. It kind of grosses me out. So I'm trying to not over mix it. I'm just kind of folding it in. It was too liquidy, so I had my husband come over and pour in a little bit more breadcrumbs for me, and just mixing it up till it's a consistency that I like. Usually recipes for meatloaf call for 1.5 pounds of meat, and then the 1 egg I think doesn't make it too liquidy, but my packages of meat come in 1 pound, and that's enough for us, so that's what I always do. So now I'm just putting it into a loaf pan that has been greased, and just putting that in and flattening that out. So now my 30 minutes are up on the potatoes. We're just going to flip the pan, and while I was flipping it, I was like, actually, I'm going to put these on the lower rack so I can put the meatloaf on the top rack. I don't normally put meatloaf in at 425, but that's what my potatoes were in. So we're going to put the meatloaf in. We're just going to not cook it as long, as kind of just improvising here. I think I'll show you in just a minute what we had going on. And I'm going to set that for, I think, another, what did I do, 15 minutes? The sweet potatoes were getting close, and okay, 25 minutes. What do I know? 25 minutes. On this night, my husband was defrosting our freezer with a hairdryer. So this is not the first time we've done this. And he was defrosting it so that he could pull that back piece off so that we could fully defrost it. So I had moved everything to our outside freezer, plus everything I could from our refrigerator. I froze because the freezer was working, but the refrigerator wasn't, and it was because of something in the freezer. Anyways, it's kind of been a pain in the rear end. So I am making a sauce here. Maybe I do have a recipe for this. If not, I'll try to write it up below. No, I don't have a recipe for this. It's however much you want. This is the topping for the meatloaf. This is the one that my husband really likes. This is my classic one. Classic for a lot of people, I suppose. Ketchup, a little bit of sriracha if you like it, just a couple squirts, and some brown sugar. So I am making probably like a cup worth of sauce. We like a lot. I like to put it on top of the meatloaf. I put it on the meatloaf. I don't think I showed you this, in the last like 10 minutes, and then put it back in the oven. And then I like some to add on to our plate as well. I also just steamed up some green beans. I didn't film all the little details. This was the state of our freezer. We were stopping to eat, and my husband had the dryer propped up on some towels. It was dry in there at that point to continue to thaw out the freezer. So this was dinner, though. A little bit butter and brown sugar on the sweet potato. It was a really, really good dinner.
All right, we had a busy night and refrigerator problems, so we picked up pizza and wings. We just reheated it in the oven, and that is what is for dinner tonight.
For this next dinner, we're going to make some beef ramen stir fry. I will have the recipe linked down below for you, although I didn't actually follow it today. I think I looked at it for the sauce, but I'll have that for you. And I know I've shared this with you before, but this is an easy go-to and very delicious dinner. So in a pan with some sesame oil, heat it up. I've got 1 bag of frozen broccoli and 2 very large carrots that I sliced into like little matchsticks. Kind of wish this recipe in the end had a little bit more broccoli, but that's okay. I'm just going to saute that until they are nice and tender. And look at this little piece in the broccoli. Like, what a disappointment. I took that out. There's nothing to it. At this point, I'm realizing the broccoli is nice and tender, so we're going to remove that from the pan, and I just put that in a bowl on the side because we're going to use this same pan to do more of the dinner. So now I'm heating up. I'm using avocado oil for this part. You could continue to use sesame oil if you want, and I'm just going to cook up 1 pound of ground beef. And if you have beef that isn't very lean, you might not even need to use any oil, but we are just going to Cook that up until that is fully cooked, of course. So while my beef is cooking, I am going to be making our sauce, and you're going to want some coconut aminos, or you can use soy sauce. And I had to grab another bottle, but we're going to do, like I said, I will have the recipe linked below for you. What I would say is that we always make more sauce than it calls for. So I think I did 3 or 4 times as much sauce. But I will have the recipe linked below for the measurements. So coconut aminos or soy sauce, then we're going to add in some brown sugar, and then some garlic, minced garlic, along with some sriracha. And then we're going to mix this together really well and just set that aside. Also, while my beef is going, I'm cooking up some noodles. So I'm just using some ramen noodles. You can use any kind because it doesn't matter. We're not using the seasoning. I think I was using beef and chicken, and they only take like 3 minutes to cook. So I am doing 4 packages. This is something we also do more of. I think the recipe only calls for 2, but then by the time we got to our leftovers, we never ended up having enough noodles. So I do like 4 times the noodles and 3 or 4 times the sauce, and that's my adaptation to the recipe. I think that's the only adaptation, maybe not, I don't know. Check the recipe. So once the noodles were cooked and drained, I'm adding everything into the pot just because I knew my pan wasn't going to be big enough. We're going to add the meat. We're going to add in our cooked vegetables. And then we are going to pour over our sauce and give that a good toss. I like to use tongs for this just because I can kind of, I don't know, I feel like it is easier to mix everything together. And that is it. This comes out so good every single time. And I did not show it, but my husband always has his with some cashews and water chestnuts on top. I have mine just as is, but it is delicious and a winner every time. Highly recommend it. That's going to do it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget, give it a thumbs up. That helps me so much and helps out my channel so much. And also, don't forget to subscribe if you are new. Make sure your notification bell is turned on, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.